Nothing gets people more excited than the two words I'm about to say: property taxes. But in all seriousness, they're so important to understand when buying or selling property in the Triangle region of North Carolina that I wanted to revisit the topic, especially since some important things have changed since my last video. And I promise to be a bit more succinct this time around. But before we dive into the fascinating world of property taxes, my name is Matt Martin, and not only am I a Raleigh-based realtor, but I'm also a transplant to the Triangle region, originally from LA and New York City. I've helped tons of clients, just like you, do exactly what I did back in 2021 and relocate to the Triangle region of North Carolina. So if you're looking to do the same, I'd love to help you too. Now, quick disclaimer. While I used to be a CPA, that's a past life, and I can no longer advise on taxes. So everything in this video is purely informational and not meant as legal or tax advice. Now, let's start with the basics. When are taxes due? Well, in North Carolina, the government runs on a fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th, which means you won't receive your tax bill until July of each year. But that bill covers the current calendar year, January through December. The bill says due by September 1, but you actually have until January 6th to pay without penalty. So, for example, it's 2025 now. You'll get your tax bill in July of 2025, and that bill covers January through December of 2025. It'll say it's due by September 1st of 2025, but you actually have until January 6th of 2026 to pay without penalty. Then you'll get your next tax bill in July of 2026. Now, unless you're on a payment plan, property taxes are paid in one lump sum here, not monthly or quarterly. But if you have a mortgage, your lender likely maintains an escrow account for you, which means a portion of your monthly payment goes into this escrow account to cover property taxes. So it's actually your lender who will pay the property tax bill each year out of those funds. So if that's the case and a tax bill arrives in the mail, you can just ignore it. So what happens when you buy or sell a home? Well, at closing, property taxes are prorated based on the current calendar year of January through December. So if you're closing before tax bills are released in July, your closing attorney will use last year's rate to perform the prorations. For example, if you close on March 31st, the seller owes 3 months of taxes for the 3 months they've lived there, January through March, which are credited to the buyer, who will then be responsible for paying the full tax bill when it comes out in July. Now, here's the kicker. Even if the new taxes are higher than what was used for the proration, the buyer can't go back to the seller later to collect the difference. Now, if you close after tax bills are released, it'll really depend on whether the seller has already paid the bill or not. Say you close on September 30th and the seller has already paid the full bill. That means they've paid for the full calendar year despite only owning the home for the first 9 months. So at closing, the buyer will reimburse the seller for October through December. Now, if the seller hasn't paid the property tax bill yet, then both sides will contribute their respective share at closing. 9 months for the seller, 3 months for the buyer in our example, and the attorney will use those funds to go ahead and pay the property tax bill. Now, sometimes the recording of the new deed after closing will trigger a duplicate bill before the county records the attorney's payment. But if that happens, the buyer can always double check online or call the attorney to confirm the tax bill has already been paid, and then just toss that bill in the trash. So now that you know when and how taxes are paid, let's talk about what they're based on. In North Carolina, property taxes are calculated using the assessed value of your property. And counties must reassess property values at least every 8 years, but most in the Triangle do it every 4. And Wake County just announced that starting in 2027, it'll move to reassessing every 2 years to make increases more gradual as property values continue to climb. And here's a full list of Triangle counties and their next assessment dates. And here's why it matters. Let's say you're comparing 2 homes. one in Wake County, which just reassessed in 2024, and another in Harnett County, which reassessed back in 2022. The Harnett home might look like it has lower taxes, but that may only be because it's still based on older assessed property values. When Harnett revalues in 2026, you can definitely expect those numbers to jump. So if you're seeing wildly different property tax amounts across county lines, this reassessment schedule may be a big reason why. Another reason may be property tax rates. Here, your tax bill is calculated by multiplying the property's assessed value by the county's tax rate. If property values rise during reassessment years, counties usually lower their tax rates to help offset the jump. You can see that pattern clearly in Wake County's history. Rates dropped in 2016, 2020, and again in 2024, each time a reassessment happened. But county taxes aren't the whole story. If you live within city limits, and I'll explain what that means in just a minute, you'll also pay a city property tax. And those vary quite a bit. For example, in 2025, Raleigh's city tax rate is 0.355%, while Garner's is 0.52%. So on a $500,000 home, that's about $825 more per year in Garner. And just like counties, cities also adjust their rates in reassessment years. Take a look at Raleigh, where the combined city and county rate dropped from 1.09% in 2023 to 0.87% in 2024 after our reassessment. Let's put that into real numbers. If your home was assessed at $400,000 in 2020, you'd have paid about $4,360 in 2023. After reassessment, your value likely would have jumped to around $600,000, and your 2024 bill would be roughly $5,200, not $6,500 like it would have been if the rates hadn't come down. So yes, your bill went up, but not nearly as much as it could have. Now, I mentioned city limits. There are a lot of parts of town across the Triangle region that are considered unincorporated, which means they're not officially within city limits, even if you write that city's name as part of your address. Take a look at this map of Wake County, which shows each city's limits. Anything that isn't colored in is unincorporated and won't be subject to city taxes. If you live in one of those areas, you'll only pay county taxes, not city taxes. And that can make a big difference. A $600,000 home inside Raleigh city limits pays around $5,000 in total taxes, while the same home just outside the limits pays roughly $3,000. Sounds great, right? Well, there's a trade-off. Living outside the city limits means you likely don't have city services, no city water or sewer, and no city trash pickup. So you'll likely be on a well and septic system, and you'll probably hire private trash service. For most homeowners, those costs are still less than the extra taxes, but it's something to factor in. And in some of these unincorporated areas, you might also see small specialized taxes for things like fire protection districts. All right, so let me address two questions I hear all the time. Number one, does my assessed value change when I buy a home? No. Property values are only reassessed on the county's official schedule, not when the home changes hands. So if you buy a home in Harnett County in 2025, your tax bill will still be based on the 2022 assessed value until the next revaluation in 2026. All right, number two, can I contest my assessed value? Yes. And there are two main situations where that might make sense. The first is right after a county reassessment. You'll get a letter showing your new assessed value, and you'll usually have a window to appeal it. We actually did this ourselves in 2024. We sent in comparable sales, and they adjusted our value down quite a bit. The second situation is when you buy a home for less than its assessed value. It's rare, but with us seeing buyers have a lot more negotiability in today's market, it does happen. And in that case, you can absolutely file an appeal, even outside a revaluation year. All right, one last piece of the puzzle, and it's one a lot of people forget about. In North Carolina, your vehicle is also taxed as property. The DMV automatically sends you a combined renewal and tax bill each year, and the tax rate is the same as your city and county property tax rate. So if you live in Raleigh and your car is valued at $20,000, your annual tax is around $175. If it's an electric vehicle, you'll need to tack on an extra $215 state fee. So here's the quick recap of how property taxes work in North Carolina, especially around the Triangle. The tax year runs January to December, but bills come out in July. If you have a mortgage escrow account, your lender handles the payment. Taxes are prorated at closing based on the calendar year. Most counties reassess property values every 4 years, but Wake County will move to every 2 years starting in 2027. Number 5, your taxes equal your property's assessed value times the county rate and city rate if you live inside city limits. Number 6, you can appeal assessed values both after a revaluation and after a purchase. And yes, your car gets taxed too. So hopefully this helps demystify property taxes here in the Triangle region of North Carolina. It's not the most exciting topic, but it's one that can have a huge impact on your monthly budget, and understanding how it all works can really pay off. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, or if you're ready to kick off your home hunt here in the Triangle, I'd love to be your guide. You can reach me by phone, email, or text, and you can find all my contact information in the link below, or by scanning this QR code right here with your phone. And if you liked this video, I have a whole catalog of others all about moving to, living in, and buying real estate in and around Raleigh, North Carolina. Here's another one here that you may like, so give it a click to keep on watching.